everyone. I'm Pastor Misty Howick. I am the pastor of New Song United Methodist Church in Surprise, Arizona. Today we are looking at the chapters of Proverbs number 24 and number 25. Yesterday was supposed to be 24 and today was supposed to be 25, so we're doing them all together today so you can catch up with me and I can catch up with you. Unfortunately, we had several meetings yesterday and they went late into the evening and I wasn't able to post our chapter 24 of Proverbs. Just a quick reminder that there are 31 chapters in Proverbs, and we're going to go until we get through all of them, and that will put us somewhere next week during Holy Week and finishing our look at the Proverbs. Another thing to point out, one of the comments that was made, Ian reminded us that we're not sure who influenced who. The last two chapters were we were reminded that it shared those words in a different Egyptian book of wisdom from Amenomope. There we go. Mopi, there we go. And that we're not sure if they influenced the writings here or if the writings here influenced the Egyptian writings. But either way, there was a lot of influence going back and forth with the Proverbs and some of the ancient Egyptian wisdom that was happening. So now we are on chapter 24, and chapter 24 continues, it begins the beginning of collection 3, section C. So Proverbs has been identified as having different collections that come from pretty much different areas. And so this one we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll also look at collection 4 and I think collection 5 as well. So let's go ahead and start reading. Do not envy the wicked, nor desire to be with them, for their minds devise violence, and their lips talk of mischief. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Wise warriors are mightier than strong ones, and those who have knowledge than those who have strength. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. Wisdom is too high for fools. In the gate they do not open their mouths. Whoever plans to do evil will be called a mischief maker. The devising of folly is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to all. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength being small, if you hold back from rescuing those taken away to death, those who go staggering to the slaughter, if you say, "Look, we did not know this," does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And he will not repay all according to their deeds? My child, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. Know that wisdom is such to your soul. If you find it, you will find a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Do not lie in wait like an outlaw against the home of the righteous. Do no violence to the place where the righteous live. For though they fall 7 times, they will rise again. But the wicked are overthrown by calamity. Do not rejoice when your enemies fall, and do not let your heart be glad when they stumble. Lest the Lord see it and be displeased, and turn away his anger from them. Do not fret because of evildoers, and do not envy the wicked. For the evil have no future, the lamp of the wicked will go out. My child, fear the Lord and the king, and do not disobey either of them, for disaster comes from them suddenly, and who knows the ruin that both can bring. So that concludes not chapter 24, but that concludes the part of chapter 24 that is part of collection 3 in our Proverbs. And just a couple of notes before we continue. Again, it's really uplifting the wisdom. And so really hyping it up, saying, people should go after wisdom. It's better than the strong cities and houses. It's better than the wise warriors are mightier than just strong ones. Things like that. So it's holding up wisdom very high. Again, here it brings up the idea of lamp. For the evil have no future, the lamp of the wicked will go out. That's verse 20. Again, that lamp, the idea of it is legacy. Like their legacy will not continue. Their the wicked, the evil will have no future. That's what that is. The lamp will go out. There was one more piece that I wanted to just have a second, but now I don't see it. I like the accountability here. So there's accountability for saying that God does watch and God does care. What you do in your life, and so don't think that if you do bad stuff that it just goes, that it's hidden and no one will see, because God will see. So I really like that. I think that's one of the pieces of wisdom that we can transfer to our current day and age, is that there are consequences to when we do wrongs. Not only does God see it, but also it enacts things in the world that do not promote safety or wellness or goodness in the world. Okay, so moving to verse 23 in chapter 24. This begins collection 4, and it's attributed to anonymous sages. So this is just wisdom coming from people. These are also the sayings of the wise. Partiality in judging is not good. Whoever says to the wicked, "You are innocent," will be cursed by peoples, abhorred by nations. But those who rebuke the wicked will have delight, and a good blessing will come upon them. One who gives an honest answer gives a kiss on the lips. Prepare your work outside, get everything ready for you in the field, and after that build your house. Do not be a witness against your neighbor without cause, and do not deceive with your lips. Do not say, "I will do to others as they have done to me. I will pay them back for what they have done." I passed by the field of one who was lazy, by the vineyard of a stupid person, and see, it was all overgrown with thorns. The ground was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw it and considered it. I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed warrior. Okay, so again, uplifting the hard workers and reminding people not to be lazy, for, things will get carried away, overgrown. You'll be caught in want if you're lazy. Also talking about making sure that you're honest and you're prepared. Don't be a witness against your neighbor, especially without cause. So this is all the end of chapter 24, and we're ready to go ahead and start chapter 25. And chapter 25 starts with the title, Further Wise Sayings of Solomon. It's the beginning of collection 5. There's still a discussion about whether these things really did come from Solomon. I'm getting a lot of information out of the Jewish Study Bible, and they say that the sons of Hezekiah copied these pieces of wisdom. So we'll just have to take it for what it's worth. Historically, we don't know if that's actually what happened, but traditionally, this is where it comes from. So these are the other Proverbs of Solomon that the officials of King Hezekiah of Judah copied. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings is to search things out. Like the heavens for height, like the earth for depth, so the mind of kings is unsearchable. Take away the dross from the silver, and the smith has material for a vessel. Take away the wicked from the presence of the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of the great, for it is better to be told, "Come up here," than to be put lower in the presence of a noble. All right, we need to pause there. If you're paying attention, this sounds a lot like something that Jesus talks about in the Gospel of Luke. So in the Gospel of Luke chapter 14, around verse 7 through 31, he's telling a story, or he's giving instructions about when you go to a party. And it says, when someone invites you to a wedding, don't sit in the most important seat. They may have invited someone more important than you. And if you are sitting in the most important seat, then they will come to you and say, "Give this man your seat." And you will have to move down to the last place and be embarrassed. Does this sound familiar? So when someone invites you, go sit in the seat that is not important, and then they will come and say to you, "Friend, Move up here to this better place, and what an honor this will be. So here we have almost identical thoughts in, this instruction for what to do when you go to a party. And perhaps the deeper meaning is, always be humble. Always put yourself in a place of humility, and you'll always have opportunities for rising out of that humility if they're presented, or at least not being humiliated, right? And so that's an important place to be. All right, so I thought it was interesting that those are almost identical here, Proverbs chapter 25 and in Luke chapter 14. So continuing on, what your eyes have seen, do not hastily bring into court. For what will you do in the end when your neighbor puts you to shame? Argue your case with your neighbor directly, and do not disclose another's secret. Or else someone who hears you will bring shame upon you, and your ill repute will have no end. Okay? We can pretty much interpret that well. Don't be talking about people, directly address people you're having problems with. Don't be talking bad to others and triangulating and bringing other people in, because it just looks poorly on you. All right, verse 11, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Like a gold ring or an ornament of gold is a wise rebuke to a listening ear. Like the cold of snow in the time of harvest are faithful messengers to those who send them. They refresh the spirit of their masters. Like clouds and wind without rain is the one who boasts of a gift never given. With patience, a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue can break bones. If you have found honey, eat only enough for you, lest having too much, you vomit it up. Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, lest the neighbor become weary of you and hate you. Like a war club, a sword, or a sharp arrow is one who bears false witness against a neighbor. Like a bad tooth or a lame foot is trust in a faithless person in time of trouble. Like vinegar on a wound is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. Like a moth in clothing or a worm in wood, sorrow gnaws at the human heart. If your enemies are hungry, give them bread to eat, and if they are thirsty, give them water to drink. For you will heap coals of fire on their heads, and the Lord will reward you. The north wind produces rain, and a backbiting tongue, angry looks. It is better to live in a corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a contentious wife. Like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. Like a muddled spring or a polluted fountain are the righteous, who give way before the wicked. It is not good to eat much honey, or to seek honor on top of honor. Like a city breached without walls is one who lacks self-control. All right, so a lot here in the second part of chapter 25, a lot of poetic language here in the English around nature and clouds and cold of snow, clouds and wind without rain, talking about like a bad tooth or a lame foot is trust in a faithless person in time of trouble, vinegar on wounds. So it's a lot of imagery and very poetic right here to talk about, again, making sure that we're lifting up wisdom, speaking wisely, speaking with thinking about what you're saying. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. It's talking about the worth of wisdom. And obviously, wisdom is very important, very much a priority. It should be placed at the same level of your wealth and your possessions, or even higher than that. I wanted to look at, really quick, in our Jewish Study Bible, verse 22 here. Let's see. Verse 22, give me a second, friends. All right, rather than seeking vengeance, treat a vulnerable enemy kindly. So this is the verse where it says, treat an enemy who's thirsty by giving them water, and if they're hungry, give them food, and then you're pouring hot coals on their head. So rather than seeking vengeance, treat a vulnerable enemy kindly, and then he will be ashamed, and God will reward your kindness. This is another one that comes from, or went into the ancient Egyptian wisdom of Amenemope. There we go, Amenemope. That advised when the wicked man is in trouble to fill his belly with bread of your own, that he may sated and weep. So a lot of similarities between some of these ancient Egyptian texts and our Proverbs of today. So what stuck out to you? Which imagery was really important to you? Was it the like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country? I know when we hear about good news happening in war-torn areas of the world, and we hear that there's ceasefire, or we hear that there's been aid, sent to help the victims, it is refreshing to know that people are out there helping. So perhaps that is what speaks to me this time in Proverbs. I hope that you have gained some kind of wisdom through the reading of these chapters. There's quite a lot in here, and I can't go into every single verse to look at the historical and contextual surrounding information of it, but I feel like we've gotten a lot of good knowledge because of it repeats itself so much. There's so many similarities in the chapters. So I'd be interested in hearing what understandings you've gained that you will be taking with you. We still have some more chapters left, but we'll get to that tomorrow, and we'll be here every day through Lent until we finish Proverbs, which is 31 chapters. So I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you. Bye-bye.